All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. If you've been enjoying our content, please make sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate all your support. We got a good one in Arkansas. We're covering tonight, Louisville at Arkansas. Cody, what are your initial thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun matchup regardless. But, I think it's one team that, has kind of proven themselves with a couple big wins over, Louisville over Kentucky. And if you want to call Cincinnati a big win, I guess you can. It's probably not going to age as well as they would like. But, and then Arkansas, who, in their two biggest games of the year, lost pretty tight ones. That Duke game, they easily could have won, I guess. I mean, they were up in the middle of the second half, and Cam Boozer and Duke went on a big run down the stretch to win that game by 9. And they hung around at Michigan State, which actually looks like a really good performance now, and it's a game that they actually could have stolen late. So I guess you could call them a bit unfortunate in some of those games, but they've also struggled with some bye game competition this year. Only a 4-point win over Samford, and I believe they beat Winthrop with it was super late. They were down in the last minute, and they ended up kind of stealing that game at home. But they just haven't really put it together on either end of the floor. Currently they're 48th in adjusted offense on KenPom, which could end up being a little bit low when we look at it at the end of the year. But they do seem to have similar issues as to what they had last year. They're taking care of the ball a little bit better. I mean, they're 14th nationally in turnover rate, but they're not getting on the offensive glass like I kind of thought they would this season, or at least improve in that area. They're just 212th nationally in offensive rebound rate at 29.7%. And they are shooting it a little bit better than they did a year ago, led by Darius Acuff and Meleek Thomas, who are just, two more freshmen that have far exceeded expectations this season. This freshman class has just been great. And Acuff and Meleek Thomas, I think, have kind of, raised this Arkansas team's ceiling. And yeah, but ultimately they kind of just need to put it together and finally, win a big game. And for Louisville, their offense has just been humming really all year long. They're second in KenPom and adjusted efficiency. They've scored 100 points in 4 out of their 7 games that they've played now. Put up 96 against a good Kentucky defense, and it's been led by their shooting ability. They're second nationally in 3-point attempt rate, and they have a bunch of guys that are going to be able to execute in this fast-paced style that really spaces you out with Mikel Brown, Ryan Conwell, Adrian Woolley, Isaac McNeely, and they have great front court passers, and Mikel Brown is also a guy that can operate at a pick and roll at a super high level. So it's going to be a really tough team to guard, regardless of your personnel. I think Arkansas has some athleticism to kind of hang with them, kind of get them off the 3-point line a little bit and force them into some of their rim protectors. But it's going to be Louisville's going to be up against it here. Playing at Bud Walton Arena, it's one of the best environments in the country, and it's going to be their first true road test of the year. And I guess we're going to have to see how a 3-point, not 3-point reliant offense, but a 3-point happy offense kind of responds to this road environment.
For sure. Yeah. I feel like this game might mean a little more to Arkansas just because they don't have that big win under their belt, and Louisville does have a couple. But Marcus, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, kind of the first thing I noted was this is the first true big time road test for Louisville, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to see them in kind of an uncomfortable environment. They were at home against Kentucky. The Cincinnati game, Cincinnati just lost to Eastern Michigan. I don't even really that game, whatever. So this is their first true big time road test, and they're as talented a team as any, particularly when it comes to shooting the basketball and to scoring it, right? They're scoring 96.7 points a game at the moment, shooting at 37% from 3. It's been really fun to watch, really impressive. And I think this game all around is going to be a lot of fun, just with on both sides, high talent, high pace, teams that shoot the 3 ball pretty well. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, especially in that atmosphere. One thing to monitor that I'll be, I'm sure we'll get into it here in a minute. I'm going to be really curious how Arkansas does on the glass, right, in this game where Louisville has done very well up to this point. Arkansas has not. They don't offensive rebound really at all. And on the defensive glass, they're pretty much a middle of the pack team in the country. They're going to be going against a Louisville team that's in the top 35 in offensive rebound rate. So that'll be something to monitor, aside from the high talent on both sides. So should be a really fun game at Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely. Cody, what are Arkansas's keys to the game to pull off a victory here against Louisville?
Yeah, I think it's mainly on the defensive end. It's pretty simple. Get this team off the 3-point line and use your athleticism to kind of swarm these perimeter options of Louisville. They have so many of them, so they're going to be really hard to cover. But you're going to need to guard in space very well, and they do have some candidates to do so. I think Darius Acuff is a plus defender for a point guard. Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, Brazil can all defend in space. Like Brazil's versatility, I think, can be pretty massive in this game. He can defend in a lot of different areas, and there's not a guy on this Louisville roster that has like immense size to really bully him. He's a bit of a thinner frame, so I do think he can hold his own on the perimeter and use his rim protection ability when Louisville's able to break down the Arkansas point of attack defense. And on the offensive end, I think it comes down to Arkansas handling Louisville's pressure and handling that high hedge and pick and roll, particularly Darius Acuff in those actions. He's shown to be, he plays I believe he plays well beyond his years, honestly. This year he's kind of passed the test. He has just a 13% turnover rate compared to a 25% assist rate. I was very impressed with what I saw from him in the tape leading up to the season, and he's done very well so far this year. It was kind of just the shooting that was the final piece for him, and he's 18 for 40 from 3 this year. So he's done a pretty nice job. So him being able to handle the aggressive nature of this Louisville defense will be big. And then, these other guys for Arkansas being able to execute when they get their catch and shoot opportunities, like Meleek Thomas. I think we need to see Carter Knox break out a little bit more with more volume. He's shot it well with the limited volume that he's had, but we kind of need to see that real breakout that everyone wants to see from him. So those guys are going to be massive in this game as well. And then, I think the Arkansas bigs also need to keep Louisville's bigs off the glass. I think Sananda Frew is probably the best rebounder in this game. So guys like, Malikio and Nick Pringle need to really hold their own on the glass. And, I think in a home environment, I think they'll have a little bit of a better chance. I think, there's going to be a little bit of extra juice in this game in their first big home game of the season, a top 10 team coming in Louisville. So I do think they can step up and at least give themselves a chance to win this game at home.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Cody. I think Acuff has just looked phenomenal so far.
He's been great.
He's been awesome, and there's just so much talent between these two teams. But Marcus, what does Louisville have to do to come out of here with a win?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is taking advantage of where Arkansas has struggled, and that's on the glass. I think continue to put pressure on the offensive glass, continue to limit Arkansas's second chance opportunities. Those are going to be key things in this game. If you can win the rebounding battle on the road, that always goes a long way in leading to a victory. I think hunting, the best threes possible. I think at times Louisville, and some of it has to do with some of the competition they've been playing, aside from, I'll say Cincinnati and Kentucky. They do take some bad ones at times, some deep ones, some kind of heat check ones. I think this is a team in Arkansas that you can really, break down some of these younger guards at times and really spray the ball and generate really quality high 3-point looks. This is an Arkansas team that gives up the 3 ball at a 42.2% clip. So you're going to get your 3-point looks against this Arkansas defense. And obviously Louisville has the shooters, as I said earlier, 37% from 3, and, Conwell's shooting it over 45%. Brown is, to me, a better shooter than what he's been so far. He's at 30% on the season. And then McNeely, we know what he is. And that doesn't even include any of the other guys, across, down the board. So I think it's going to be really important for them to really seek out high-level, high-quality threes against this Arkansas defense, because they're going to be there. And when they get great ones, they're going to knock them down. I think putting pressure on the rim and some of these inexperienced guards. You've got experience in Ryan Conwell, Isaac McNeely, Javon Hadley, right? You've got experience across the board. Put pressure on some of these guys that are freshmen, sophomores at Arkansas early, and make them have to guard the basketball. And then the rim protection of Arkansas, like we talked about in the preseason, isn't fantastic. Put pressure on the rim. They've been able to do it thus far. They haven't protected the rim. Like, the block rate isn't high, but they've done a good job up to this point of doing it without fouling. So at least there's that. But I think if you continue to kind of repeatedly put pressure on the rim against this team, you're going to have success. And then, this is an Arkansas team that likes to get out and run. They've got these younger guards that really want to push the pace, in Acuff and Thomas. So limiting Arkansas transition opportunities, I think, is going to be a big swing piece in this game, particularly at Arkansas, right? You don't want to have them running out for dunk after dunk and getting layups and wide open catch and shoot threes in transition. That's just going to feed the energy of the crowd, and I think would set up for a tough spot for Louisville here.
All right, yeah, this sets up to be a great game. I think it'll be a close one. The line has not come out yet, of course, but Louisville's probably favored just a little bit. Cody, who do you think comes out of here with a win?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to ask me, like, if this game was played 100 times, like, who wins more often, I would probably say Louisville, like, it's the slight edge. But I'm going to kind of bank on Arkansas having, like, somewhat of an all-in performance. I don't really like doing this, but I do think, this is a game that they probably feel like they need. And, they haven't completely put it together on either end yet. But I do like Darius Acuff and Meleek Thomas to have, like, a good chance to expose this Louisville perimeter defense a little bit. I know, like, Conwell's a solid defender, but I don't like Brown and McNeely, I think, can be taken advantage of a little bit in space. And I do think we get a really good effort from the guard group of Arkansas. And I think they can do enough as a defense. They can use their athleticism to, at least bother Louisville a little bit, and then just kind of bank on Louisville not making as many shots in a really tough road environment. And for a team that's second nationally in three-point attempt rate, if they have a bad shooting day, they're going to obviously have way less of a chance of winning. Like, they can obviously win in other ways. Like, they probably win on the glass. I think it's closer to a 50-50 split in the turnover margin, and they could ultimately win there. But if they have a poor shooting day, I do see Arkansas winning this game. So I will take them to win in a somewhat faster paced game. So I think the scoring will be fairly high. I'll say they win it 88-85.
Right on. Marcus, who do you like?
I'm going to go on the other side of this. I'm not going to buy the Arkansas, like, desperation game. I just think that Louisville has too many ways, too many avenues to win this game. I think they're going to control the glass. I think they're going to generate enough good looks. Obviously, like, this could come back to bite me, like you said, if they shoot a lot of threes. If they have a cold shooting night, it could be a rough one. But I think their shooters are just too good, and we've seen them do it for too long with a few of them. So I'm gonna side with Louisville here, just with their talent and their ability to win on the glass. And then, putting some pressure on the rim with some of these guards. I think Mikel Brown Jr. can also kind of just get downhill in this game. So I'm going to take Louisville to win another high scoring game. Closer, though. I think Louisville wins like 89-85.
Some good points, Marcus. I am buying into Arkansas. I think it's going to be high scoring as well. I'm going to go 87-82. I'm siding with Cody here.
Love when it's stacked against me.
Anything else to add?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that I think Louisville is going to be a great team long term. They're, like, in the conversation to be like a tier 1 title contender, and I do think the defense is making more strides early in the season than I guess I anticipated, and the offense is humming right now. So I think they're going to be fine long term. This is just a really tough game and a tough environment.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's definitely going to be a close one. It's going to be a good one to tune into. But we're going to wrap things up here. As always, thank you for listening to the Mainly Hoops podcast.